Bryan Mbeumo has been ripping up Premier League defences for some years now, but as a man of few words, the Man United star seems to just let his football do the talking.
Here comes Bryan Mbeumo! 4!
And on goal, Bryan Mbeumo! What a great finish.
But how much do we actually know about this silent assassin? Stick around, because here are 8 things you didn't know about Bryan Mbeumo. Bryan Tetsadong Marceau Mbeumo was born on August 7, 1999 in Avallon, a tiny town in France's Burgundy region, barely 7,000 people in the entire population. But as promising as his career is now, his story almost ended before it even began. Mbeumo's father came from Cameroon, carrying dreams and football stories from a continent where the game runs through your veins. Growing up in Avallon meant knowing everyone on your street, kicking balls against the same old walls every day, and wondering if there was a world beyond those rolling vineyard hills. Mbeumo spent his childhood doing exactly what every football-crazy kid does, dreaming of one day playing in stadiums he'd only seen on TV. But here's what nearly crashed everything. When Mbeumo was just 8 years old, his family went through serious financial difficulties. His parents considered moving back to Cameroon, thinking maybe they'd find better opportunities there. For months, young Mbeumo didn't know if he'd be staying in the only home he'd ever known or starting over on a completely different continent, with very few chances of touching his dreams.
Yeah, obviously, when I don't really know people, I'm not like someone who is like really loud or something.
Football suddenly felt like the least important thing in the world. Lucky for him, they decided to stick it out in France. But that early uncertainty shaped him and made him appreciate every opportunity that came his way. 90% of his fans have no idea that Bryan Mbeumo didn't start his career as a natural winger. When he first joined his local club, eto'o Avallonnais, at age 6, he had played just anywhere, doing all the dirty work, tracking back, making tackles, and spraying passes around. Those years are exactly why he's so different from other wingers today. Watch him closely and you'll see it. The way he drops deep to collect the ball, how he finds pockets of space that pure wingers miss, his understanding of when to press and when to stay disciplined. By 14, Troyes brought him into their youth setup. That move was the real turning point, from playing on local pitches in Burgundy to training daily in a professional environment. The coaches there saw his pace, technical ability, that wicked left foot, and then had a light bulb moment. They pushed him out wide on the right as his natural position. It's why defenders have such a nightmare trying to mark him, because he isn't just the typical winger who stays wide and tries to beat them with pace or on a 1v1. Instead, he's also someone who can think like a midfielder and has the brutal force of an elite winger. That's an absolute ruthless skill set. Fast forward to 2019, and Bryan Mbeumo was lighting up Ligue 2 with some seriously eye-catching performances. Premier League scouts were taking notes, German clubs were also banging on the door for him, and bigger French teams started sniffing around. Then came Brentford with their promises of development over instant gratification. Now, Brentford weren't Real Madrid. They were a championship club at the time, with big dreams and an interesting project, but to be honest, most young players in Mbeumo's position would have waited for a bigger offer. Instead, something about the coach Thomas Frank's vision clicked with him. Maybe it was the promise of regular football, maybe it was their track record of developing young talent. Either way, he took the leap of faith, and Brentford signed him for $5.4 million, a club record fee at the time. But here's where it gets interesting. When Mbeumo arrived in West London, he wasn't the main man. That honour belonged to Ollie Watkins and Saïd Benrahma, 2 players who were absolutely tearing up the championship. Suddenly, this kid who'd been the star in France found himself fighting for minutes in a front 3 that was already pretty crowded. Then came the crushing blow. Brentford's playoff final defeat to Fulham in 2020. Wembley, extra time, the heartbreak. Watkins left for Aston Villa, Benrahma eventually headed to West Ham, and everyone expected Mbeumo to follow them out the door. Premier League clubs were already circling, ready to offer him that instant top-flight football he'd missed out on. But he stayed. He bet on Brentford, and more importantly, he bet on himself. And it turned out to be the stepping stone of his career. The 2020 to 2021 championship campaign was when Bryan Mbeumo stepped out of the shadows and announced himself to English football. With Watkins and Benrahma gone, he finally had the stage all to himself. And boy, did he make the most of it. Playing on the right wing in Frank's fluid system, he started doing things that had championship defenders wondering what the hell had just happened to them. But there was one game that changed everything for him. March 2021, Brentford versus Swansea City, with automatic promotion slipping away and the pressure ramping up. Although he wasn't on the score sheet, Mbeumo produced an insane performance that had everyone asking the same question. Where has this guy been hiding? That season, Mbeumo grabbed 8 goals and 7 assists as Brentford finally achieved their Premier League dream through the playoffs. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was the way he lifted his teammates when things got tough. His patience had probably paid off in the biggest way possible.
Yeah, Lenny in holiday, so yeah, obviously he knew there was like some rumors for me.
For years, Bryan Mbeumo carried 2 passports and felt the pull of 2 nations. Born in France, he represented Les Bleus through the youth ranks, under 17s, under 20s, and under 21s. He understood their system, felt comfortable in their setup, and had coaches telling him a senior call-up might not be far away if he kept progressing. But then life threw him a curveball. In the summer of 2022, Samuel Eto'o, yes, the legendary Samuel Eto'o, reached out personally. The Cameroon legend had become president of his country's football federation and was building something special. He saw Mbeumo as a key piece of their future, someone who could help the indomitable Lions roar again on the world stage. The decision kept him awake for weeks, but on September 2022, he made his choice. Cameroon's debut against Uzbekistan, and 2 months later, he was packing his bags for the World Cup in Qatar. Not bad for a kid from a town of just 7,000 people. Bryan Mbeumo's Premier League story is told perfectly through his stats, but not in the way you might expect. His first season in 2021 to 2022, he managed 6 goals and 4 assists. Solid numbers for a newly promoted side's winger, but nothing that screamed future superstar. However, look deeper, and you'll see the foundation being built. His expected goals were consistently higher than his actual goals. His dribble success rate was already up there with the Premier League's best wingers, and his defensive work rate showed a player who understood his responsibilities on both sides of the ball. The 2022-23 season brought the actual breakthrough. 8 goals and 5 assists across all competitions, and suddenly people were taking notice. Then came 2023 to 2024, and the evolution was complete. More goals, more assists, but most importantly, more influence on big games. His heat maps showed increasing freedom to drift centrally. His pass completion in the final third jumped significantly, and his conversion rate hit nearly 20%. Elite level for a Premier League winger. By 2024 to 25, Mbeumo had become one of those players you can't ignore. The kind of threat that forces tactical adjustments and sleepless nights playing alongside Yoane Wissa. He scored a massive 20 Premier League goals, only behind lethal attackers in Mohamed Salah, Alexander Isak, and Erling Haaland. A really huge feat for someone who wasn't even Brentford's first-choice winger just a few years earlier.
On goal, Bryan Mbeumo!
When the summer of 2025 rolled in, Bryan Mbeumo's name started appearing in some very interesting places. Arsenal had him on their shortlist. Newcastle were also monitoring his situation closely. But while other players his age were jumping at the first big offer, Mbeumo was being incredibly selective about his next move. Reports suggested he'd turned down approaches from several big clubs because the projects didn't feel right. He wanted guaranteed playing time, a system that suited his style, and coaches who understood his game. Then, out of nowhere, came the approach that changed everything. On July 21st, Manchester United came in and snatched him for a deal worth £71 million plus add-ons. So far, it's looking like a steal for the Red Devils. But that's a huge sale for someone Brentford had picked up for close to £6 million and contributed 70 goals and 51 assists for them. It's a win-win.
Bryan Mbeumo!
Yeah, obviously, when I don't really know people, like I'm not like someone who is like really loud or something.
Away from all the tactical analysis and transfer speculation, Bryan Mbeumo is refreshingly a normal guy. Quiet, humble, and focused, with a passion for piano playing and chess. Yes, he enjoys strategy games like chess and finds playing the piano relaxing. While he is known for his explosive presence on the pitch, he is surprisingly reserved and even a little nervous when performing piano in front of others, contrasting how comfortable he is playing in front of thousands of fans. When you think about Bryan Mbeumo's journey, it's just crazy how a boy moved from playing in a small French town to one of the biggest and most historic clubs in the world. It's been nothing short of extraordinary. Just a guy living his childhood dreams. If you enjoyed learning about Bryan Mbeumo's incredible journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to discover more hidden stories from football's rising stars, check out our other videos. And trust me, you won't be disappointed. We'll catch you later.